Okay, I'm going to kick us off. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on oneNDA Playbook. I'm here with Preston today, CEO and co-founder of SimpleDocs, which is the technology that powers the oneNDA Playbook. And Preston's going to be showing you how the tool works at the end of this webinar. So stick around, because the first thing I want to go into is a bit more detail around the concept. And before we dive into the tool, I want to talk about some important principles that underpin what we're doing here. So as you know, oneNDA has relied heavily on its community today, and we've really leaned on you to give us input so that we can build the oneNDA standard. And as we evolve, this is an evolution of oneNDA in a significant way. But as we evolve, we want to make sure that we're maintaining that dialogue, and we want to get your input and put it at the front and center of everything that we do. So on that basis, I think it's important for you to understand why we've built this playbook, where it's come from, and also how you can get involved and give us your valuable feedback. So when we first set out to deliver oneNDA, our goal was simple. We wanted to eliminate unnecessary NDA negotiations to save time, cut costs, and free up busy lawyers' time. And oneNDA has been very successful to date. We have thousands of enterprise adopters. We've got reports from users that it works really well in practice, with NDA executions taking minutes instead of days or weeks sometimes. And we continue to have a steady rise in adoption and downloads on a daily basis. It's steady, it's coming. But eliminating the NDA friction is still our predominant goal. And we want to do more. We want to maximize our impact, and we need to reflect on our learnings whilst also taking stock of the current climate. So, as I said, we've maintained dialogue with the oneNDA community. The feedback page has been open. We've been listening to people. We get lots of direct messages from people talking to us about how the standard's working for them. And one major realization we've had is that oneNDA needs broader adoption if it's going to have the mass impact that we want it to have. It needs to reach critical mass before it can be truly transformational. So we currently have 4,000 adopters, which is great, but we think we need about 10,000 organizations to adopt it before we can start to see true institutional change. And this is on the basis of research and looking at other initiatives, and when they started to tip the scales towards institutional change. And we think that this is the number that we're looking for. But to do that, we need to realize that there are certain things that are stopping the standard from being adopted more broadly, and we're trying to address those things. Flowing from this is the reality that oneNDA is really helpful when it works and when the other side accepts it. So when you're the person sending the NDA and the other side accepts it, that's great. But it's not great, it's not helpful at all when the other side doesn't accept oneNDA, because then you're left with a problem. You're either left with them wanting to change oneNDA, so you're looking at a different document, basically it's not oneNDA anymore, or they're pushing their contract on you, which is the most frequent scenario from what you've told us. So in this situation, you've now got a third-party NDA to review. So without that critical mass where oneNDA is seamlessly going through, you've still got this problem, which is the fact that you need to review third-party NDAs. And oneNDA as an initiative has not to date done anything to help you with that. And the issue with that issue is the fact that when you're not offering a full solution and you're only dealing with half the problem that people have, adoption suffers. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle that we need to address. So to address this gap, we've come up with the oneNDA Playbook. And what we're trying to do here is to give you a tool that will allow you to review third-party NDAs while still remaining within the parameters of the oneNDA standard. And this is where it gets a bit tricky and a bit complex, because the document as it stands today includes explicit provisions, like, for example, the fact that we require email for notices rather than post, because that's very outdated. But there are also several other implicit principles that are not in the document. For example, the absence of a penalties clause is basically an implicit principle that says that oneNDA does not think that penalties is an appropriate clause for the purposes of the NDA. But we never articulated the implicit principles. So we think that this is an exercise that we need to do. Articulating both implicit and explicit principles creates parameters within which a oneNDA adopter can review a third-party NDA to assess whether it aligns with oneNDA without eroding the foundations of what we built together. And what this exercise does, so us taking the time to articulate those implicit principles upon which the standard sits, it gives us a more robust framework, which we can then leverage with technology. So bluntly, we can take those principles and turn them into AI prompts that will then power a playbook like the oneNDA playbook in a really complete way, so that when you're reviewing third-party NDAs, you're doing so within those parameters that we've built together. And this is where you come in. So the oneNDA playbook today is in beta, and that means that it's been built on a small number of core principles, and this playbook is designed to pick those up. So the principles it's built on are a combination of some of the provisions which are explicitly called out in oneNDA, and some are from the graveyard, which is a document that we issued alongside oneNDA back when we first published it. And the graveyard document basically explained why certain provisions that you might expect to see are not there, and we gave you a rationale as to why. And we built that with the steering committee back in the day when we issued oneNDA. So these principles can be found on the FAQ page. We'll send links after this to everyone who's attended today. And what we'd like you to do is evaluate these provisions and tell us what you think and what's missing. And it might be hard when you just look at them to say, oh, this is what we think is missing and what should be picked up. So that's why it's really crucial that you use the tool. So if you feed the tool third-party NDAs, you'll see where there's a gap. And when you see that gap, we'd like you to flag that and let us know in the feedback page, which again, we'll share a link to after this session. So yes, we'd like to ask you to use the tool, deploy it against your third-party NDAs and see how it does, and give us your feedback. And just to say that the tool is free to use and you can share it within your organization, and it's available as a Word add-in. So if you have any questions about anything I've said or comments or anything that you'd like to raise, please do put your questions in the Q&A or the chat function below, and we will address those. And now over to Preston to demo the tool.
Thanks, Electra. So there's one question that just came in from Denise. That's the third-party NDAs are usually confidential as well. How does the oneNDA playbook address this? Denise, if you wouldn't mind clarifying that, is this a SOC 2 GDPR question in terms of applying an AI-powered playbook to a third-party NDA that you need to know what tool is reviewing it? Because we have a good answer for that, and then that's a good question. Or is it something else relating to how the problem you're identifying? So if you wouldn't mind clarifying that question, that would be awesome, and I'll make sure, or Electra will make sure it gets answered through the course of the next few minutes. Electra, thank you so much for that setup. I'm going to show you, I think, if I can find my dashboard controls here. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. And let me know, Electra, if you can see. You see my screen okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So listen, there are two major parts to this. Electra gave a summary of both. One of them is the artifact itself, the playbook in a spreadsheet or however you would normally manage your own playbooks. And this is a set of rules that Electra is going to share with you for feedback. And that is a very easy way for you to process. You look at the set of principles, you determine or assess whether or not they seem inconsistent or consistent with your own policies in terms of how you negotiate NDAs. And that will be a worthwhile exercise, and one that I know Electra hopes and I hope that you participate in, because that will help govern or help influence what ultimately lives inside a piece of technology. The core principle, though, is that we believe, Electra believes, I believe, that in 2024, the future of playbooks are using AI to self and automatically apply them. And so you may disagree with that. And so we're not looking to change your point of view or your ideology. But we didn't think it was enough. Electra didn't think it was enough to just publish a set, a Google sheet or an Excel file that said, here is the oneNDA playbook. We wanted to bring it to life. We wanted to make it free. And we wanted to give a beta version so that we could collect feedback. And so some of your feedback, hopefully, if you'll participate, will come in the form of critique, analysis, and recommendations in terms of what lives inside this artifact, what lives inside this spreadsheet that Electra will send to you in terms of decisions of, let's not include non-solicitation provisions, or let's not include liquidated damages, whatever it may be. But a second area of feedback that we'd really like is for you to test the oneNDA playbook against a few sample NDAs within your organization. You can go get them for free from lawinsider.com. You can redact or modify ones that you've drafted yourself. I'm not asking you to share confidential information or expose anything unduly as a part of this test, but would like you to apply and test out what you see on the screen now. So in the top right, so I'm in Microsoft Word, as no doubt is familiar to you. In the top right, you see the Simple Docs Word add-in. You can download this from the Word add-in store. You type in Simple Docs, you can type in oneNDA, you can type in Simple AI is the name of the tool. Any of those will produce the same Word add-in. You download it, and you're going to have the side panel like I have here. I have my mutual non-disclosure agreement off to the left. It is ready to go. It is a generic one that we use for demo purposes. And you can continue as a guest, and that's going to apply the most generic version of the oneNDA playbook. But today, I'm going to show you how to log in, create a free account, and actually apply your oneNDA variables. I assume that many of you already use oneNDA as a template, and so you have your defaults, you have your default confidentiality period, your default jurisdiction, dispute resolution method, et cetera. So I'm going to show you today how to set that up, and I'm going to show you how it works. And it's really cool. It works very, very quickly. So sorry for the long belabored buildup. Now I'm going to show you the product, and I hope you love it. So I'm going to log in to my account. I also happen to be the co-founder of lawinsider.com if you already use that. And so I'm going to use my Law Insider account for this. The first option at top is Simple AI. So we're going to click on this here. And I have a generic version of the oneNDA playbook up top, but today what I want to show you is the custom version. I've already customized mine. You can do this in 2 minutes, especially if you're familiar with oneNDA already. I'm going to set my confidentiality period parameters. For me, I'm going to do 12 to 18 months. I could make it annual, but for our purposes, we're going to do 12 to 18. I'm going to make my governing law England and Wales. You can add additional fallbacks for other acceptable governing laws as well. You'll be able to do the same for jurisdiction. I'm going to leave my dispute resolution method as litigation and jurisdiction England and Wales. You can add in other parameters. We'll send you some instructions on this that may influence other flags that are picked up in the AI review, but that's it. Now this is your configuration. So this is all you need. You don't have to give us a whole playbook. You don't have to, I know for many organizations, I went to law school. I didn't learn how to develop playbooks. You may know in your head, and your legal team may know the rules that you generally apply, but this is a very fast way to say the oneNDA playbook is a good set of principles. We're going to put in our confidentiality period, our governing law, dispute resolution method, jurisdiction, and that is it. So within minutes, you can be set up. So now what do? We run it. We run the playbook. You're finally going to get to see this in action. I'm going to press this. It's generating now. And within seconds, hopefully, here it is, we're starting to see the analysis of the document. And we have a couple of types of flags here. We have playbook issues that are incompatible with the variables that I just created. And so in this case, it says that the confidentiality period is at issue. So I'm going to click on this section. It takes me to the term of this agreement. I see that 6 years is what's being proposed. And as you just saw, our default is 12 to 18 months. And so I can go into view details. Let me bring this view down and modify this. I can ignore it. I can make changes. You can also preload comments. So you can have your standard, if you disagree with the confidentiality period, here's how we deal with it. But in our case today, I'm going to go ahead and apply these changes because I do want us to go from 6 years to 18 months. That's our rule. That's our default. I'm going to apply those changes. And now it immediately modifies the document. Another type, and then as I'm resolving issues, they're dropping down to the bottom. So you see resolve confidentiality period has now been applied. There's another type of issue that is being flagged, and these are incongruencies or incompatibilities with the oneNDA playbook that are grounded. And this, again, this is the area where we also need your feedback. Electra will be sending out the written version of the playbook for you to apply your feedback there. But you may say, I don't think, but you may say, no, we really want liquidated damages to be allowed in our non-disclosure agreements, in which case you'll be able to configure this out. But for our purposes today, it's very easy application. We apply, you can see the red line moved over here to the left. Non-solicitation, we're going to go ahead and take that out. Indemnity, we'll go ahead and remove that. And then there was a couple other, we have dispute resolution method, England and Wales, they have California. So let's just go take a look at that one. Yep, choice of law, California. Let's go ahead and apply changes. You can see it immediately changes it out. So the goal of this obviously is to make the burden of negotiating and reviewing red lines less onerous for you or whomever on your team is charged with it. The idea is that we always put these at the end of our day. This is the last thing we want to do. It's the least interesting thing we want to do, undoubtedly. And now instead of it taking 20 minutes and an extra cup of coffee or 30 minutes, it can now take just a minute. And of course, we expect you will still review the results and you will still modify things within this. But if we can cut down the time dramatically as the product is designed to do, hopefully it'll be a worthwhile tool for you to adopt. Okay, everything has now been resolved. Everything is under the Resolve tab. The only other issue is it identifying things that are compliant. So these are not flags in the sense of there's action to be taken. It's just for you to review to know. In this case, oneNDA standard it's really important that the definition of confidentiality is sufficiently broad. And this is just telling me, and I can click on it and it'll take me here, that the definition is sufficiently broad. And so this is where, these things were very, very difficult, if not impossible to do prior to artificial intelligence getting to the state that it is now, Gen AI being where it is now. But now it's wonderfully simple to do. And it's free for you to use. So that's what I wanted to show you. I'm sure that there are some questions. I'm going to go off screen share for now. We still have another 10 minutes or so. So happy to answer questions. We can talk about SOC 2 compliance. We can talk about how to set this up. We can talk about any other concerns or issues you may have. Electra did mention where to send feedback. There is a feedback page at onenda.org, which as a follow-up to this webinar, you will get a link to. And then there's also an FAQ page about how the oneNDA playbook was developed and sort of the core principles that underline it. So I'm going to stop sharing now. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. But that is the focus or the thrust of what we wanted to talk about today.
Thanks, Preston. We do actually have some questions.
Great.
So the first question is, great initiative. Will the add-in be able to mark up the clause in the sense of not deleting it entirely, but for instance, adjusting it to match my playbook? So 2 instead of 5 years or other more complex examples. And Lucas, I've seen other tools that do just wholesale delete a clause, but Preston, correct me if I'm wrong, but this tool will just make the changes to the inconsistencies rather than wholesale replacing.
Right. Yeah. And hopefully that was evident in the part of the demo where I was showing jurisdiction or confidentiality period going from 6 years to 18 months, that inline change was made. So that absolutely, it does work that way. Correct.
Cool. The next question is it possible to have a comment added when the red line is implemented?
Yes, absolutely. So as a part of the configuration, you can preset comments. There can also be AI generated comments, but those tend to not be as good as your own comments. And so it's as simple as saying, when certain issues arise, this comment is applied. And then you have the ability to override that comment, to modify that comment. But yes, the short answer is comments are built into the tool.
Great. And does the tool automatically change section numbers when you delete a section?
It does not yet, but it will.
Yeah.
That's coming. That's a really good one. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We've had this question before, actually. Will this tool be available for Google Docs?
Yes, it's in development. For those of you that are familiar with software development, the bulk of the work for us has already been done. Applying it and enabling it in Google Docs is surprisingly simple. So it's just a step we haven't completed, but in the next couple of weeks that will be released, and it will also be free.
Thanks. And once the amendments are made, will they be in track changes that the counterparty can view?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, with the comment. So this is an integration with Microsoft Word, and so it is auto applying with your acceptance red lines and comments in the same exact way. So it's going to have your name, John Smith made the edit on this date. So it will function and appear to the counterparty exactly as it would now if you were redlining manually.
Yeah. Cool. Denise has responded to her first question, and effectively the question is, will the third-party NDA be shared with you or any other third party while using the oneNDA playbook?
So I'm sorry. I see legally we would not be allowed to share the NDA itself with third parties. This would depend on where the screening would take place. Will the third-party NDA be shared with you or any other party? No. So we're a cloud-based service provider. We're SOC 2 compliant. We're AWS Ireland. We're GDPR compliant. So I can send all of that documentation through links. You can go to trust.simpledocs.com to see all of our data policies. We power this solution supports large organizations globally. Oak North Bank in London, which has subsidiaries all over the world. So check and trade, data stacks. So we've gone through any due diligence requirements that you may need. But to be clear, this is your Microsoft Word instance. This is a Word add-in that is analyzing the document. And someone asked the question, Queenie asked the question about training. We're not using the data for training. That's consistent with our policies, which we can share with you as well. But yeah, this is your private data. We have no visibility into it. We're not analyzing it. We're not reading it beyond the sole purpose of giving you the red line recommendations back.
Cool. Thank you. Is the Netherlands added as a jurisdiction? So I think here, just to make sure that I understand the question, you can add any jurisdiction you like in your variables or your preferences rather, and that will pick up whatever jurisdiction you put in. But let me know if I've misunderstood the question. Okay, the next one, how does this cope with locked files, either PDF or MS Word?
Sorry, one second. Okay. Sorry, I'm seeing James and Queenie's questions and James, actually you can't see this because Queenie sent it to us privately. So hold on one second. I'm sorry, Electra. Did you just ask about the locked files? Was that the one that you just said? I don't know. How do you work with lock files? I think that the same way you're not able to redline lock files, we're not able to redline lock files. So you can create a copy of it. But I think we run in whatever limitations Microsoft Word has, that multi-billion or trillion-dollar company, we have as well from an AI perspective. So if you can't redline it, we can't redline it, unfortunately.
Cool. The next one is, will you have visibility of the third-party NDAs submitted to the tool?
So we will not have, you can, so we can create an account for you, or you can create your own account where you have a repository and there's ways to track it. And this ties into James's question about sort of what is our commercial model. So the reason we're doing this for free, because it's not a free product for us to deliver, because we have to rely on AI. That costs money. Obviously, the software development costs money. The goal is to give you a very powerful tool that solves a very specific high volume use case, and that you will say, gosh, this is wonderful. And then you say, can you help us review other contract types? And then we're helping you implement custom playbooks for things that are not non-disclosure agreements. But you don't have to do that. You can use the oneNDA playbook, customize it, use it forever. This is a way for us to go to market, for us to create brand equity, and for us to create trust within a user group, in hopes that some percentage of you will need more than the NDA. But if you don't, that's wonderfully fine too. Business is good. We're growing quickly, and so you should feel confident that that the free version is really a free version. Are we adding the M&A version? Sure. Yes, we can absolutely add the M&A version, James. Helen, so on the question of locked, so we do have the ability to process and analyze PDFs, that's sort of an OCR light, and then this could then convert into something that could be redlined. I think that, though, for the purposes of today, that's a little bit out of scope. I don't want to promise that as being a core feature. It's basically that this is a Word add-in. If you can open something in Microsoft Word, then you're right, it would analyze it and flag it. And so maybe that's actually a better answer to your question. It can flag it, but not apply the red lines. You're still stuck at that point needing to figure out how to modify, and maybe in that case, you're just sending comments back. It's a really good question, though, and something we can talk about.
We have a few more questions over on the Q&A.
Oh, okay. I need to head over there. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the chat.
So one
Public
of them is,
generative AI tools learn by gathering info from everyone's prompts. Will a user's prompts and answers become part of the public domain? So I will send a comprehensive, so we're not training any models as a part of this exercise. We do rely on Anthropic and OpenAI. And so to the extent that your business or your organization is taking the position that we can't interface with OpenAI, this would be a limitation to your adoption of this tool. And so, but a very, very valid question. Let me go over to Q&A.
Lindsay's asking, can I have different levels of permission on the playbook? So a paralegal can accept X, but beyond that, a lawyer.
Oh, that's coming. Yeah, because we've had requests for, dare I say, even salespeople to be able to use this. You may be like, no, let's not go that far. But yeah, that is not here today, but it is coming.
Cool. If there are references to sections within the body of the text, will these be amended if there are changes to sections? It's a good question.
Where is that? Let me try to catch up to that one.
That's from Jade in Q&A.
Oh, I see. Yes, I see. So not yet. That is a functionality we're developing right now, more so for other agreement types. I know that what you just described can happen in NDA negotiations where there are changes that affect other sections. I think it happens maybe less often. But yes, but that is coming. That is coming so that it is looking at the document as a whole, not just clause by clause, and therefore if something changes here that has a requisite or corresponding change below, that it will be implemented. So in the next week or so, the product will do that. Lee, I think you're taking issue with these two things as being in conflict. We're on AWS. Our servers are hosted in Ireland. We have customers in the UK and in the US, and we are still SOC 2 compliant. So hopefully I can show you our data policies and everything else, but if you're implying a sort of inconsistency in the fact that we have data centers outside the US and we're SOC 2 compliant, then that's something we can talk about. Can we get data on the most commonly edited provisions, for instance? Yes. So we're actually going to be launching an integration with Law Insider in this Word add-in in the next month or month and a half, and it will also have what's market analysis that probably will come more into play for for other NDA use cases or use cases other than NDAs. But that's a really good question, and it is coming. Okay, Lucas, if a clause is missing in Simple AI, we'll insert it for you. We'll be able to adhere to the definition and terms used in the third-party NDA, like disclosure. Yes, yeah. That's an awesome question. This one was such a pain, such a good question, Lucas. This one drove us crazy. Building these models takes a long time. So we've been at this for a while. So the answer is yes, but it's a really smart question and something that we struggled with and have now overcome. So thank you for asking that. Lee, sales team access. This is too far. Fair enough. Okay, great. Thank you, Lee. Awesome. And if you have more questions, happy to answer them there. Let's see. Okay, I think we're at time. So we're going to send a bunch of follow-up resources. We'll send a recording. Electra, I think you're going to send the spreadsheet itself so that people can get under sort of the underbelly of these principles of oneNDA. Anything, I'll pass this back to you to close us out.
Yep, that's great. Thank you, everybody. And as Preston said, we'll send follow-ups after this. And thank you again for joining and for your time.
Thanks, Electra. Thanks, everybody.